Welcome to the Bearded Mystic podcast, where we are waking and growing in oneness, and I'm your host, Rahul N Singh. I've been a spiritual seeker for over 20 years with a deep interest in non-duality. Thank you for joining today. Today, I'm going to talk about something that is very close to my heart and a topic that is my favorite too. From a very young age, I've heard these words many times, and it created a curiosity within me that would pave a path that I can never turn my back on. A desire was born that put all my other desires on the back burner. Those words were Brahm Gyana. Brahm Gyana is the knowledge of Brahman that leads you to self-realization. It is the insights into Brahman, or what I refer to as formless consciousness. This divine knowledge gives you the tools to listen, to reflect, and then meditate on this Nirankar, the formless in every moment. This divine knowledge has been eternal and directly shows us the infinite. The only thing we have to do is make sure the mind can recognize it, realize it, and be it, as this is the main purpose of life. This is through the guidance of the Guru that we discover this ultimate reality that has been hiding in plain sight, which is the open secret, and only a few ever realize it as their own true nature. I've been a follower of the Sant Nirankari Mission all of my life, and my grandfather was one of the first disciples back in the late 1920s. So I've been fortunate to have been brought up in a household that had access to this Brahm Gyana. I may have been around 11 years old when I received this Brahm Gyana, that very divine knowledge that transformed my own grandfather's life. Unlike my grandfather, who understood what Nirankar, this formless, is, and experienced it and connected with it from that very moment until his last breath, my relationship with the Brahm Gyana has been a different one, but a gradual one, and one that maybe we can all relate to somewhat. Initially, when I was growing up, it was told that I would be able to see God, which, even for a kid's mind, to see God is pretty exciting and cool. Can you imagine I could go into my school classroom and say that I have seen God? I could declare it to the world. But that would be heavily naive of me, and thankfully, I never made such claims and saved myself from embarrassment, as I went to a school that spoke of the Abrahamic description of God. But the question still remains, did I see God everywhere and all the time when I was 11 years old? No, not at all. In fact, what happened was a small glimpse, and the ego caught it, and you know what it does from there. Simply, I set myself with a borrowed belief that I have seen God. Cutting a long story short, it was only until I was around 21 years old that I truly started to experience a life that I have never experienced before. A perception that was both human, yet divine. All I can say is that from 21 years old to today, it is my Guru's grace that this spiritual growth has only continued and has saved me from a very subtle ego that did creep in when I was 11 years old. This subtle ego was that even if I didn't see God, I did know about it intellectually. That feeling of attaining this knowledge created an ego in me. I felt better than those that followed other gurus and other religions. But this was not something that my Satguru ever taught. And that is why in my 20s, I had to empty myself of all previous knowledge, even of the Brahm Gyana, to receive it once again. I prepared myself to have an empty mind, and a mind with an intellect that was ready and primed for this realization. If it wasn't for my Satguru, this could have taken me a lifetime or even a few. But his one glance had my mind cleared of all misconceptions. So the moment I received Brahm Gyana at 24 years old again, it all made sense, and I could experience oneness like never before. All that remained was Brahman, and now my mind had to make sense of it. So, what is Brahm Gyana? What does it do for us? This Brahm Gyana shows us very directly, literally in a matter of seconds, the realization of that formless consciousness that is all pervading, everywhere, and most of all within us and within every particle of this universe, manifest and unmanifest. Nirankar means formless. So the Brahm Gyana states that this ultimate reality that some call God and various other names is formless, imageless, boundless, shapeless, nameless, and so on. Growing up, I referred to God as Nirankar, and even though it has no name, this name Nirankar always fills my heart with loving devotion. Today, I use the names like Nirankar or formless or consciousness, and then sometimes formless awareness, formless consciousness, and then on the occasion, God, depending on my mood or my interactions with others. This Brahm Gyana is a direct, intuitive realization that there is nothing but this formless consciousness. And listen carefully to this. The one that is aware of this formless is the formless itself. It is the formless that merges the apparent other that it is observing. The Jeev breaks free from the shackles of identification that is the body-mind intellect and realizes its true nature as the formless Nirankar, or that the Jeev is actually the Atma and not the body-mind intellect. This Brahm Gyana is not a knowledge that you remember like some textbook explanation or something that just remains as an intellectual understanding. It is very easy to fall into that trap of saying that, I have seen God. But this will not be experiential knowledge. Brahm Gyana is when you are seeing God as your own true nature, not that you have seen God just out there. It is not of the past, but it is a moment-to-moment realization, directly connected with in the present. In fact, in each moment of this realization is truly an eternity experienced. This Brahm Gyana is not some knowledge that I go around with pride saying that I have realized God, but my words are extremely shallow and the experience is oceanic deep. So literally all one has to do is connect with this formless, and one's being will naturally be speaking about this formless. It is to be understood that yes, maybe others have not realized that they are this formless consciousness. Maybe they've tied their consciousness to their body, mind, intellect, and therefore Nirankar or God is still very separate to them. So what are the steps to realize this? And on another occasion, we can go into depth on these steps, but let me give you a brief overview. The first step is to guide the seeker that the body and mind changes. But an awareness of the body and mind does not change. Literally, you can demonstrate this by saying, look how we've grown from a 5-year-old to a teenager, and then to young adulthood, to middle age, and then eventually old age. The body has changed so much, yet the one that witnesses the changes of the body is not growing old, it's remaining the same. Even with my many thoughts, desires, emotions that have arisen and also settled in my mind, yet the witness does not arise nor settle regardless of those thoughts, emotions and desires. So we know that there is a witness within this body. The sages call this by many names, from the Atma, even Jeev, or mainly the Sakshi. The second step is that one will say that there is pure formless consciousness, so God or Nirankar, and that you are a spark of it, you are a part of it. Then the seeker is intrigued, and then you experience the direct revealing of one's true nature through Brahm Gyana. Then the third step is to highlight to the seeker that that part is none but the whole. Once they understand that the drop and the ocean are nothing but water, they realize that this individual soul or Jeev or consciousness is nothing but God itself, formless consciousness itself. This realization is what the rishis have claimed as Aham Brahmasmi, or I am Brahman, Tattvam Asi, you are that, I am Atma Brahman, this Atma is Brahman itself. This Brahm Gyana has been in existence since eternity. It is truly Sanatan, and it is through the Satguru that this can be realized in a matter of seconds. Brahm Gyana is different in many ways to other spiritual teachings because it shows us exactly who we are, what we are, and it becomes an undeniable truth for us. Brahm Gyana is the highest knowledge, which has been spoken of in many scriptures. Only a rare few have that desire built for such wisdom. This Brahm Gyana shows you directly that you are Nirankar, you are this formless consciousness. You have always been this, you will always be this, and you are this right now, right here in this moment itself. Other spiritual teachings, despite how lofty they may be, will always bring us to this ultimate knowledge. And so, what are those other forms of knowledge? Well, whether it's through Gyan Yoga, which is the inquiry into your true nature as the Atma, or Bhakti Yoga, which is devotion to Nirankar, both with form and formless, or Raj Yoga or Sumiran, which is mindful remembrance of the formless, or even Karma Yoga, which is selfless service to all living beings. All these spiritual teachings are important, but it is only through Brahm Gyana that one can free ourselves from the identification of body, mind, intellect and lead ourselves to Jivan Mukti, which is liberation whilst living. As I mentioned before, having a Satguru impart this Brahm Gyana to you is an essential part of the journey. This Satguru is the highest spiritual teacher, the Param Guru, who understands the essence of the scriptures, lives a noble life, and ultimately has the perpetual awareness of their true nature as formless consciousness, as Nirankar, and therefore they are a constant source of inspiration. Their teachings guide us to live in the Brahm Gyana at all times, to the highs and lows of life. And that's why a Satguru is very necessary. See, the Satguru has two roles for us, and it depends truly on where we are as seekers. So I will explain the two different types of seekers, and this is more like an evolutionary process. The aim is to reach for the highest in spirituality. So the first type of seeker is one that is starting on the journey. So the Satguru's discourses will help us to inquire within. We'll have some self-introspection on how to deal with our conditionings, deep desires, or our emotions, and then with our thoughts as well. It helps us define a lifestyle that cares and empathizes with humanity. The teachings of practicing good karma, but yet rising above the fruits of those actions. The Satguru helps us establish a connection with the formless. We worship God through His attributes and the Satguru and have strong devotion towards them. Even though there is duality here, this is still a very important step in the journey. So the Satguru is mainly a guide here in the first type of seeker. The second type of seeker is one that has done everything the first type of seeker has done. They are also able to renounce their desires and the fruits of their actions very easily. They are able to understand clearly what is unreal by nature and what is real by nature. That which is real is transient and is subject to decay and death. That which is real is permanent and is eternal and free. They have freed themselves from the senses, and the mind is stilled through silent contemplation of the formless, or that is called Anhat Shabad. Actions are done that causes the least amount of suffering. The seeker ultimately desires freedom whilst they're alive, and therefore duality doesn't make any sense. The intellect finds this dualistic thinking to be binding. Doubts are exhausted through proper reasoning and logic, and this intense desire for liberation starts brewing. Then that seeker is ready for Brahm Gyana, and once the Satguru reveals, through the process of neti, the process of not this and not this, one directly sees one's true nature as the formless. One is to remain aware of being Nirankar or formless consciousness. This may seem dualistic, that one is becoming something, but there is no difference. The body, mind, intellect are tools and are born from consciousness itself. And without consciousness, we cannot experience this body and mind. The Satguru, through a careful and precise inquiry, allows the seeker to surrender the dualism of the ego and then enter the non-dual formless consciousness that shines forth as one's true nature. Then only Nirankar remains as existence, consciousness, bliss, or Satchit Ananda. Then the seeker is liberated whilst alive. They are a Jivan Mukta, or referred to as a Brahmgyani, As it is said in the Sukhmani Sahib, Brahm Gyani Aap Nirankar. The Brahm Gyani is Nirankar itself. This is the second role that the Satguru has that leads to the oneness between the disciple, Satguru, and Nirankar. What does the state of that Brahm Gyani or seeker look like, the second type? The example of the blank screen that shows a movie is apt here. The blank screen is never impacted by the images on the screen, whether love is shown or hatred, whether someone is born or dies. The blank screen remains permanent, whilst the images are transient. Likewise, consciousness is never impacted by the body-mind intellect. Only a realized person understands this and uproots all dualistic thinkings out and is forever rooted in non-duality and oneness. As I always say, that it is the Satguru's grace that you have the opportunity to take Brahm Gyan, and then it is the Satguru's blessings that you are enlightened by the Brahm Gyan through realizing that you are this one Nirankar, this one formless consciousness. You're a Jivan Mukta. This is what is meant when the Rishis proclaimed Aham Brahmasmi or I am Brahman or any other of the Mahavakyas. Even today, my Satguru Mata Sadiksha Ji Maharaj is giving many seekers this opportunity for self-realization. And the great thing is that all you need is to have this deep inherent desire to know your true self. All you have to do is literally go to your local center of oneness, and there are many across in the world, and there will be someone who can give you this Brahm Gyan. The Satguru has empowered a number of devotees to give her Brahm Gyan to genuine seekers, which again highlights how the Satguru is one and the same with their disciples. From my own experience, this formless consciousness is my constant companion in life. I live in it, I breathe in it, I meditate in it, I'm aware in it. The understanding that I am this formless consciousness is crystal clear, and all my doubts have been dispelled through careful reasoning, logic, transcendence, and surrendering. And Advaita Vedanta has been a massive help in this as a philosophy. One thing I must also add here, that the many great seekers, even in the satsang when I was growing up, truly answered my doubts, and the scriptures have been great in helping me find the language to what I was experiencing. Therefore, the scriptures and satsang have helped me stay rooted in non-duality, and I place a lot of importance of maintaining satsang with Brahm Gyanis and satsang with the scriptures. This is very, very important, and it's helped me a lot. The perspective that changes is incredible. From a time when I had anger issues, this Brahm Gyan changed that for me, because one automatically has this inner peace and bliss at their disposal. My anger has reduced significantly, and it rarely pops its ugly head to disturb me. Instead, I use it as a tool for proper action if necessary, like for social justice causes. It has also given me great peace in life, because I know that this life, this world is all but temporary, and it will go one day. So I can be a little detached to everything. But it has also increased my gratitude for those things in my life, like my family, my friends, my material possessions, and anything else that I have in life. This detachment allows renunciation to be very possible for me, because I can devote everything to Nirankar, this formless consciousness. And I have seen Brahm Gyanis do it, and they are my constant source of inspiration. This Brahm Gyan has also opened up the space to be humble. And I've definitely become aware of how the ego can appear and try to identify with worldly praise or even criticism. Even the spiritual ego of I can see God is now easily dismissed. The humility to understand that whether someone knows their true nature or they do not, they are still one and the same as me. In this great tapestry of eternal life, one day all living beings will be realized. In fact, they are already realized. They may just not know it yet. And when the time is right, they will. I do not need to be arrogant about my spiritual knowledge or even my worldly possessions. I also don't have to do any special rituals or specific spiritual practices anymore, because once you understand that you are this formless consciousness, the rest of the time can be spent on worship, silent contemplation, reading the scriptures, and mindful remembrance. You can entertain what appears to be dualistic, but it is a non-dual practice for you. For example, you can worship the form of the Satguru, and although from the outside people think you're worshipping the form, but you as a Brahm Gyani, as a seeker, know that the Satguru is this one formless consciousness, which you are. So you could say it is the formless consciousness worshipping formless consciousness itself. Whilst the realized see the one in many, but the ignorant only see many and not the one. Even though you may be, or I may be referring to Nirankar or you, formless, inherently there is no I nor you here. The Satguru removes this biggest misconception once the Brahm Gyana is fully understood and realized. You just simply abide in this formless consciousness. Most of all, there is a deep reverence for every living being as they are all your own being. And this is a vision that the Satguru gives as a natural byproduct of realization and enlightenment. So in essence, what appears to be Maya is none other than the formless's own being. And this is what oneness is really about. There are a few ways to integrate and apply these teachings in your daily life. Growing up, I was guided to live by 5 principles, and I'm going to share them with you right now. One is to understand that this body and mind is not yours, and it is not you. Do not identify with them. The material possessions belong to this world where it has originated from, and this world is none other than God's own being or Ishvara. Therefore, remain focused on your true nature as formless consciousness. Second is that there is no need to be proud of your caste or social standing in society, or the colour of your skin, your nationality, your religion, or any other divisions that are enforced by narrow-mindedness. We are to be inclusive towards all and understand the need for equity and fairness. You just surrender every form and label of identity that is not formless consciousness in its purest state. Third is that there is absolutely no need to hate or ridicule someone based on their lifestyle. Their lifestyle may be determined by various factors like geographical location, a nation's history, the culture today, or even biological reasons. Therefore, just be loving and compassionate to all. Fourth is to live in the world as a responsible citizen. There's no need to escape life to be in the jungle alone for enlightenment, or in the concrete buildings for wealth. If you have a family, be a good parent, a good child, a good friend, a good spouse. Help those who are condemned in society, uplift them, and pay your fair share of taxes. This is the responsibility of living in a strong and tight-knit community. Fifth is an interesting one, but it is to not share this Brahm Gyana with anyone unless you've been given permission by the Satguru. The main reasons for this is that one must be first in constant awareness of Nirankar themselves, and until then, practice is needed. Unless you know that Nirankar is the absolute reality, one will always be in dualistic thinking, which is not the experience of the Brahm Gyani, as we know from the scriptures. Although many may say they want to know God, but in actual fact, they may not be ready, and they need to be prepared for that wisdom. Most of all, this Brahm Gyana is a Satguru's. Therefore, as a disciple, I must respect that this sacred knowledge is not mine to share. This really helps us keep the ego also at bay. But again, this Brahm Gyana is an open secret. Once it is pointed out, you simply cannot stop seeing it. Following these principles, we need to experience this formless in every moment of our lives until it is a perpetual awareness. As Satguru Baba Hriday Singh Ji once told me that you must be aware of Nirankar 24/7. This one instruction when I was 24 years old is what transformed my whole spiritual life. My spiritual life is centered around that one advice. An exercise I've done to help me is that before I label something like a tree or an animal or a flower, I see it as Nirankar first, as a formless first, and then I label it. So say that I see a flower in front of me. Before I label it as a sunflower, I see Nirankar first and I say it's a sunflower. This way I remember the underlying essence of everything, which is the formless, and this is what mindful remembrance is all about. The mind literally becomes full of Nirankar, this formless consciousness. When I serve my family or friends, I must do it with a feeling of selflessness and love. I'm not there to do it for personal gain or favour. This act of seva, as it is said in Sanskrit, is one that keeps the ego at bay as well, as we put others first and their priorities before ours. Most of all, attending satsang and being a good disciple of my Satguru is important for me. I must have the attitude of continuous learning to remain liberated from the shackles of ignorance, or at least to reduce my ignorance and allow this Brahm Gyana to be the very foundation of my life. In the end, this Nirankar, this formless consciousness, is the foundation of my life. One thing to always remember, that growing up in the Sant Nirankari Mission has been a blessing because of the Brahm Gyana. Having access to such subtle, yet the highest wisdom, I find myself extremely fortunate. The added bonus of having Nirankar, formless consciousness, directly experienced is just the icing on the cake, and I have a lot of gratitude for the mission for this one reason. The teachings that I've grown up with have all been centered around the Brahm Gyana, and the insights into the formless is my daily spiritual practice now, and it's one that I find incredible joy and bliss in. Until one completely understands that the body, mind, intellect is not what they are, then the Jiva is free to understand that it has always been this Nirankar. It will always be this formless consciousness and nothing else. In the end, I do encourage you to take this Brahm Gyana if you have this desire to know your true nature, to know this Brahman, this Nirankar, this formless consciousness. I shall end with something that my late uncle always used to say to me, and this may be why I have so much love and affection for this Brahm Gyana. He used to quote our Satguru and say that if God is knowledge, then why not have it? Let me know if there is any feedback you would like to share or any questions for future episodes. Do not forget to subscribe or leave a review or a comment, and share this podcast with your friends and family. Thank you very much for listening. Take care. Namaste.